Deep in South America lies a country that feels like another world. A place that breaks almost every rule of the continent. Its capital is filled with elegant Victorian streets, wooden houses, tropical canals, and voices speaking English. The country is smaller than Idaho, with fewer people than Boston. Yet thousands of miles away in New York, its community is larger than half the population of Georgetown. Its name means the land of many waters. And beneath an ocean of untouched rainforest, a waterfall drops nearly 5 times the height of Niagara. But much of the world still does not know it exists. This is Guyana, not French Guyana. And definitely not Ghana, this is Guyana, South America's only English-speaking nation, a hidden country of giants, ancient forests, and 6 peoples. So settle in, my friend, because Guyana may completely change how you see South America. Imagine this early morning on the coast of Guyana. The Atlantic is rolling in, gray and warm. You're standing on the seawall in Georgetown, a 280-mile barrier that keeps most of the country from disappearing under the ocean. Because the first surprise is this: 90% of Guyana's population lives on a strip of land below sea level. The Dutch built the walls 300 years ago. Now turn back face south for the next 250 miles. Endless forest, older than most life on Earth. Guyana is about the size of Idaho. Only 780,000 people live here, fewer than Seattle scattered across an entire country. 85% of that country is blanketed by pristine rainforest. Not the Amazon, though they touch. This is the Guyana Shield, a landmass 1.7 billion years old. Older than complex life itself. There are trees here that no botanist has ever named. The name Guyana comes from an indigenous word meaning land of many waters. And it earns that name 300 waterfalls. 4 major rivers and a mountain known as Roraima. 9,000 feet tall, flat on top. Like a table that inspired Arthur Conan Doyle to write The Lost World. Pixar used it for the movie Up. The climate stays steady all year, 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. No winter, no hurricanes. Because Guyana sits just outside the Caribbean hurricane belt. 2 dry seasons, 2 wet ones, and trade winds off the Atlantic that keep evenings surprisingly cool. And then there are things you won't see anywhere else. Every sunset at Kaieteur Falls. Thousands of tiny birds known as Kaieteur swifts fly straight into a 741-foot wall of falling water to reach their nests hidden in caves behind it. In the Rupununi, some creeks glow faintly at night from bioluminescent microbes. And because Guyana lies near the equator, you can raise your eyes and see the Southern Cross and the Big Dipper in the same sky. Most of this country was never made for humans. It belongs to jaguars and howler monkeys, and rivers that no map has ever named. Before we continue deeper into this journey, my friend, tell me what time it is, where you're watching, and which country you're in. Tell me in the comments below. Imagine this Ogle Airport, Georgetown. A 12-seat propeller plane. 1 hour of flying the window shows an endless ocean of rainforest. And then suddenly a column of white mist rising out of the green. 20 seconds later, you're circling it. Kaieteur Falls, 741 feet. Tall single drop that's nearly 5 times the height of Niagara Falls. Twice the height of Victoria Falls. 23,000 cubic feet of water go over that edge each second. It's among the most powerful single-drop waterfalls on Earth. What few visitors realize is Kaieteur has been standing there thundering for over 1 billion years. The rock underneath is Guyana shield sandstone, 1.7 billion years old, older than complex life on this planet. The falls sit inside Kaieteur National Park, 626 square kilometers of virgin rainforest. No road leads to get there. You arrive by chartered plane or you trek 5 days through jungle. Barely 8,000 people visit per year. Niagara gets 8 million. There's a legend behind the name. The Patamona tell a story of an old chief named Kai. Enemies were coming for his tribe, so he paddled his canoe out over the edge, sacrificed himself to the spirits of the forest to save his people. That's why the falls are known as Kaieteur. Stand at the top, no rope. No fence, just you on a rock. With all that water falling past every second and nothing else. What I love about Guyana, it's the only country I know that officially calls itself the land of 6 peoples, not 2. Not 3-6. About 43% of Guyanese are Indo-Guyanese, descendants of Indian indentured workers who arrived during the 1800s. 30% are Afro-Guyanese, descendants of enslaved Africans. 9% are Amerindian, 9 indigenous tribes who've been here for thousands of years. And Chinese, Portuguese, and mixed heritage form the remaining population. 6 peoples, 1 flag. The golden arrowhead, and 1 national motto. 1 people, 1 nation. 1 destiny. Here's what's special. This is the only country in mainland South America where the official language is English. Not Spanish, not Portuguese. Because Guyana was British until 1966. And even though it's geographically South American, culturally it belongs to the Caribbean. Cricket is a religion here in Georgetown. You can walk 500 meters and pass a Christian church, a Hindu mandir, a Muslim mosque, and a Sikh gurdwara. Hindi film songs blast from a rum shop next to a mosque. The smell of curry meets the smell of garlic, pork on the same street, and here's what really gets me. Some of the most famous Guyanese in the world. You already know Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman elected to the U.S. Congress. Her father came from Guyana. Eddie Grant, who wrote Electric Avenue, that song that hit #2 on Billboard in 1983, was born in a village known as Plaisance. Letitia Wright, who played Shuri in Black Panther, was born in Georgetown. Shivnarine Chanderpaul, among the greatest cricketers ever, Guyanese, and there's a phrase Guyanese say all the time. Sweet Guyana. It doesn't mean sugary. It means beloved, cherished home. You'll hear it whispered in Queens, in Toronto and London, anywhere Guyanese gather. You've made it through the first part of our journey. If Guyana is already surprising you, leave a 1 in the comments below. Because what's coming next is the part most travel shows never show. Keep exploring with me, my friend. Here's something you don't get in many countries. Guyana has 3 national dishes. Not 1, 3. Each from a different continent. The first is known as pepper pot, a dark, slow-cooked meat stew. Its aroma travels 2 blocks away. Its secret is cassaripe, a thick black extract of the cassava root. It gives the color, the flavor, and works as a natural preservative. A pot of pepper pot can sit on the stove for 3 days without going bad. Every family in Guyana, Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, or Amerindian, has pepper pot on Christmas morning. The second is cook-up rice. Rice cooked with black-eyed peas meat, coconut milk, and wiry pepper. This one's African Ghanaian roots, the Caribbean cousin of a Ghanaian dish known as wakia. And the third, chicken curry with roti, That's Indian brought over by indentured workers in the 1800s. 3 continents, 1 dinner table. But food is just Guyana's warm-up. Because to truly understand this country, you must search for its giants. What few people realize is about Guyana that almost nobody talks about. This country has 2 entirely different worlds inside it. And they exist, meanwhile. Come with me to morning in Georgetown. The Capitol construction cranes on the skyline. Business people ordering flat whites at the backyard cafe. This is the boomtown side. Georgetown is known as the Garden City of the Caribbean. The Dutch designed it in a grid with canals running through it, like a tiny tropical Amsterdam. Almost 90% of the old colonial buildings are painted white. Green hardwood decorated with lacy fretwork they call gingerbread. It looks like New Orleans. French Quarter got dropped into the Caribbean. Then in 2015, the country changed forever. ExxonMobil found oil offshore. By 2022, the country's GDP grew 62% in a single year. The fastest growing economy on Earth. Marriott opened Courtyard Ramada. Every 3rd block has a crane. At the same time, step into Stabroek Market, a 200-year-old chaos of wooden stalls under a cast-iron clock tower, shipped from Britain in the 1880s. Cassave plantains, Weary peppers, nothing about it has changed. Now fly 1 hour south on a 12-seat propeller plane. You're in the Rupununi Savannah. 21 Amerindian villages here. Wapishana Makushi. Wai. 9,000 people, total across an area the size of Connecticut. In a village like Surama, 300 Makushi residents. You'll sleep in a banaba thatched roundhouse 30 feet tall, built without a single nail. No Wi-Fi, just stars and howler monkeys at 4:00 a.m. You wake at 5. Someone's already fetched water from the creek. Breakfast is fresh cassava bread on a clay skillet. Then the Toshao, the elected village leader, comes by if you didn't ask permission before visiting. You leave, that's the rule. They still practice something known as wari, a community work party. The whole village turns up to build one family's house, and in return, everyone eats together same country. 2 different centuries, connected by a 1-hour flight and a whole lot of forest. Mid-morning in Georgetown. You're driving under a row of flamboyant trees, scarlet blossoms glowing overhead, and then a wooden spire rises above the canopy. White Gothic. Impossibly tall, that's St. George's Cathedral. And what makes it famous? It's among the tallest wooden churches anywhere on Earth. 43 feet high, built in 1892, completely out of green heartwood, without a single nail. Just wooden pegs and joinery. Step inside sunlight through stained glass wooden pews. The ceiling is twice as high as the trees outside the door. No sound except your own breathing. City Hall, right across town, is Victorian gingerbread wooden architecture. From 1889, one of the finest wooden buildings in the Caribbean. And then there's the Yana, a thatched Amerindian banab, 55 feet tall, standing in the heart of the city. The YY people built it using traditional forest techniques. The name means meeting place of the people. What makes Guyana feel like the Caribbean? And not South America, 2 things. Cricket and music. Providence Stadium in Georgetown holds 15,000 fans. And every time the West Indies plays, it's packed. Almost every Guyanese village has a cricket pitch. usually just a stretch of grass and 2 sets of stumps. Shivnarine Chanderpaul played 164 Test matches for the West Indies. He's arguably the greatest Guyanese athlete of all time. Then there's music. Chutney, a fusion of Hindu religious song and Caribbean salsa. Only exists in Guyana and Trinidad. Steel pan orchestras from the coast compete every year in something known as Panorama. The Kunjaz Steel Orchestra has won it 8 times. And then there's Eddie Grant. Born in a village known as Plaisance, Guyana, his song Electric Avenue hit number 2 on Billboard in 1983. What makes Guyanese music special? Every rhythm here arrived by sea. Africa, India. Portugal, Britain. They landed at the same port and they created a rhythm together. February 23, 6:00 a.m. Vlissingen Road, Georgetown. A steel pan starts up in the distance and within an hour, the whole capital fills the streets. This is Mashramani, or mash as everyone calls it. The word comes from an Amerindian language. It means celebration after cooperative work. It marks the day Guyana became a republic, February 23, 1970. This year in 2026, the government of Guyana invested a record $120 million in MASH, the largest in history, and it's not just one day. The whole month leads up to it. Calypso Monarch, Soca Monarch, Chutney Monarch, and Panorama the Steel Pan Championship. Then comes the parade. The route runs Middle Street, Main Street, Church Street, Vlissingen Road all the way to National Park. 20,000 people show up just for the flag-raising ceremony at dawn. The costumes explode with color feathers, sequins neon fabric, beadwork like Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but with a Hindi film soundtrack. 6 ethnicities dancing at once. Amerindian, African, Indian, Chinese, Portuguese, European. Food vendors fill the whole route. Pepper pot cook-up rice faluri with tamarind sauce. Ice-cold mobi to keep you going in the heat. What makes Mashramani different from every other carnival in the world? It's not that Guyana celebrates because it won a war. It celebrates because it agreed. 6 peoples, 1 nation. 1 destiny, and every February 23rd, they prove that promise still holds. That's a party worth flying for. Grass, miles of it, golden stretching to the horizon. A herd of cattle drifts across the distance, and behind them a rider on horseback in a straw hat. You have arrived in the Rupununi Savannah, 15,000 square kilometers of open grassland. That's 4 times the size of Rhode Island, dotted with termite mounds and little bush, islands of trees cool. Clear Blackwater creeks crisscross the whole thing. And in the background, the Kanuku Mountains, which the Amerindian people call the Mountains of Life. The riders here are known as vaqueros, Guyanese cowboys, descendants of Amerindian cattle hands and Brazilian gauchos. Across the border, every Easter, they hold the Rupununi Rodeo in the town of Lethem. Bull ride and horse racing, calf roping, but the true stars of the savannah live in the water. Now here's where it gets interesting. Guyana has a nickname among wildlife travelers. They call it the Land of Giants. And the largest giant of all is the jaguar. Imagine this dawn in Iwokrama Rainforest. The mist is still on the forest road. You're in an open-back truck rolling forward slowly, and then a shape golden spotted 20 feet ahead. It looks at you and disappears into the forest. That's a jaguar, the third largest big cat on the planet. An adult male weighs 200 to 350 pounds, 6 to 7 feet long, and the astonishing part is, its bite is the strongest of any big cat. Over 1 into 500 pounds per square inch. Powerful enough to crack open a caiman's skull. Every jaguar's rosette pattern is unique as a human fingerprint. Guyana has about 400 to 500 jaguars in the wild. Most of them in the Rupununi and Iwokrama. Unlike jaguars in the Pantanal, these ones aren't habituated to tourist boats. They still behave like wild jaguars. They're the best swimmers in the cat family. They can dive 10 feet deep to catch fish. Each cat holds a territory of about 40 square miles. The remarkable part is during the rainy season, jaguars come up onto the roads to dry off. That's when travelers get their best sightings. Early morning on a red dirt track in the middle of nowhere. The BBC documentary Lost, Land of the Jaguar, put Guyana on the wildlife map. The jaguar is on the country's coat of arms, but the jaguar is just the beginning. Guyana has 5 giants, and the largest thundering monument to them all is a waterfall. Iwokrama Rainforest. You're 100 feet up in the air, standing on a canopy walkway made of steel cables. The mist is still on the leaves below, and high above you, hidden in a fig tree, sits the most powerful eagle on the planet. First, let me introduce Iwokrama first. 1 million acres of virgin rainforest, the size of Grand Canyon National Park. 5 times over 420 species of fish. Over 500 species of birds. Iwokrama has the highest density of biodiversity of any rainforest of comparable size on Earth. Now the eagle, the harpy eagle, 7-foot wingspan, 20 pounds. And the remarkable part is, its talons are 5 inches long, longer than a grizzly bear's claws, powerful enough to snap the neck of a sloth in one strike. There's a punk rock crest of feathers on its head, and when the eagle gets alert, those feathers stand straight up like a crown. The harpy hunts sloths and monkeys, plucking them from the treetops. It can fly through dense canopy at full speed with a 7-foot wingspan, without ever touching a leaf. Its natural design is extraordinary. Harpies breed once every 2 to 3 years. Just one chick, that's why they're endangered. But in Surama village deep in Iwokrama, Indigenous guides know 3 active nest sites within walking distance. Visitors can hike in quietly and watch a fluffy harpy chick, the size of a small dog, while its mother returns with a monkey in her claws. There's a reason serious birders spend $6,000 to fly here from America. It's for that bird sitting on that branch with claws bigger than yours. A moment that stays with you forever. Sunrise on the Rewa River. Your kayak is drifting. Silence, then a rush of water, and 6 otter heads pop up in a row. Watching you in silence, meet the giant river otter. The biggest otter species on Earth, 6 feet long, 70 pounds. 3 times the weight of a normal otter. Each one has a unique cream-colored throat patch. Like a fingerprint, they live in family groups of 4 to 8. They communicate in 22 different vocalizations. They eat 6 to 9 pounds of fish a day. And they hunt in packs. They can take down a piranha, a young caiman, even a small anaconda. Barely 5,000 of them left in all of South America. Karanambulaj in the northern Rupununi. That's the place Diane McTurk raised orphaned otter cubs. There, for over 50 years, locals known as her the Otter Woman of Guyana. She devoted her life to protecting them. Speaking of giants, first let me introduce two more. In the wetlands of the Rupununi, in still water that looks like glass, lives the green anaconda. The heaviest snake on Earth, it can reach 550 pounds 30 feet long. It has no venom, it kills by constriction. It hunts caiman capybara deer. It lives most of its life underwater, with just its eyes above the surface. If you see one that's a memory you will carry forever. Now the fish, the arapaima. The world's largest freshwater fish. 10 feet long, 440 pounds. It has to breathe air coming up to the surface. Every 5 to 15 minutes, its scales are so hard. Scientists study them for body armor design. Land of giants, that's why they call it that, and somewhere far away, 3,000 miles north. Half of Guyana's population is dancing to soca in Queens. Take the A train to Lefferts Boulevard in Queens, New York. Head south 30 blocks along Liberty Avenue. Roti shops, sari stores. Hindu Manders, congratulations. You just walked into Little Guyana. Around 140,000 people of Guyanese descent live in New York City. The fifth largest immigrant group in the whole city. And in June 2021, Liberty Avenue was officially conamed Little Guyana Avenue. Think about that. That community packed into 30 blocks of Queens is bigger than half the population of Georgetown itself. Every Sunday, people line up at Singh's Roti Shop for curry chicken roti. Sybil's Bakery pulls fresh cheese rolls out of the oven at 6:00 a.m. In March, the neighborhood celebrates Phagwath, the Hindu festival of colors right there on Liberty Avenue. In autumn, diyas light up the whole street for Diwali. An entire homeland was recreated in Queens. Because when you leave sweet Guyana, you take it wherever you go. Before we wrap up this journey, my friend, here's the details you need. The best time to visit January through April is Guyana's sweet spot. Dry season on both the coast and the interior. 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Trails are dry. Jaguars are easier to spot and Kaieteur is thundering at full flow. October to mid-November is your second window. If you want Mashramani book for late February. Rupununi Rodeo happens Easter weekend in Latham. Cricket Carnival Falls in September. Now costs a 7 to 10 day trip. Runs around $1,500 to $4,000 per person. All in flights from the U.S. JetBlue out of JFK, American out of Miami. Caribbean Airlines cost $400 to $900 round trip. Georgetown hotels range from $30 a night for budget to $150 for mid-range. Interior eco lodges, Rock View, Karanambu, and Iwokrama come as packages roughly $150 to $300 a day, including a day trip to Kaieteur Falls is around $250 by chartered plane. By the way, the Guyanese dollar trades at roughly 209 to 1 US dollar. Visa if you're American, Canadian, British, or from the EU. You do not need a visa show up with a valid passport. 6 months of validity, 2 blank pages. Yellow fever vaccine is required if you're arriving from a country with yellow fever risk. A few final tips: don't drink the tap water. Stay in the Kingston neighborhood of Georgetown. Use registered taxis yellow with license plates starting with H. Bring bug spray book eco lodges 2 to 4 weeks in advance. Now, one final thought about Guyana. Guyana, a country with more waterfalls than roads, more birds than people who've heard of it, where 6 ethnicities cook Christmas dinner together and the most powerful eagle on Earth watches from a rainforest. Older than most of life if you set foot here. You'll return home carrying something unexpected. A country you now know exists. A friend on Liberty Avenue who tells you to come back. And a nickname for a place that finally makes sense. Because Guyana isn't just a country, it's Sweet Guyana, and once you've been, that name remains with you forever. If Guyana just made your bucket list, my friend drop what go on in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey with me, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next country we visit together. Which country should we explore next? Suriname, Bhutan, Peru, Morocco? Drop your guess below and share this with the friend you want to fly to Georgetown with. Until our next journey, my friend, safe travels. See you in the next country. Bye from Sweet Guyana.